All right, it is the Massholes. It is Chuck. Oh, my God, every fucking time. Sorry, Dave. It is the Massholes. This is Chuck.
And Mintzy.
We are doing what we do, and we're talking to who we love and making friends, and we got a great program today. I mean, you know, we have one of the guys that propelled you into the Mintzosphere. Is that what we're calling it? It's like higher than the stratosphere. It's the Mintzosphere.
Well, we talked earlier about Sonny Vaccaro, who was the godfather of basketball sneaker marketing.
Right, yep.
Now we're going to talk about Mintzy's godfather.
Your actual godfather.
My actual godfather.
Yes, and it is this guy, Mark Thomashow, who another interesting, beloved guy who in the world of sports, by the way, drops some names. This guy drops some names, and he's
Let's just say he
hell
was
of a
sued.
nice guy.
Let's just say he was sued by the Beatles.
That's amazing. Right?
The Beatles.
That is incredibly amazing. I mean, I was sued by Belle Biv DeVoe, but it was for a traffic violation. I mean, it just didn't go anywhere. But the Beatles, that's a whole other echelon right there. That's the shizzle.
If my parents had named me Vince,
Yeah.
I might have sued them. If my name was Vince Mintz,
Yeah.
I might have sued them.
Oh yeah, I'm sure that would have been. Could you sue your parents? Was that the hip thing to do? I know that celebrity kids now. You're like a celebrity kid. Weren't you on like one of the early episodes of Full House or something? Were you like the wacky neighbor kid on like Family Ties or something? Oh, here comes Mintz.
Enough about
Ding dong. There's Mintz.
Let's get
All
back
right.
to Mark Thomashow.
Mark Thomashow. Yes. So
my Yoda. He's
yeah.
my Yoda. He's my mentor. Just he's done so much for me in my life.
Yeah.
Not just me, but my family, and I love him. Love him to death.
Mark Thomashow, everybody. So, Dave, I want to start with you because you and I have been around the NBA and professional sports, having never stepped on the court to shoot a three or a free throw, but we're involved in professional sports. So people ask us a lot about interesting and cool sports jobs, careers in athletics and professional sports. And this guy that you've introduced me to, people ask me questions about what I do. Boring compared to Mark Thomashow here. Mark, how many years?
31.
31 years at Nike?
31 years at Nike until August of 2015.
So if people don't know, Nike's a shoe, right, Dave? I mean, you're in that business.
Yes.
Yeah.
Footwear and apparel.
And Mark, when you started there, tell me what that was like. I mean, did you have any idea what it was going to be or
No.
what they were? I mean, because they weren't the same as what they are now.
No, it was a big company. It was $400 million in sales. Now it's $38 billion. And I started off in the legal department, and I did all of the sports marketing deals that Nike did. And then I did little advertising, which was very little. Nike advertising in those days were print ads in Runner's World, okay? 1987, when I was still in the legal department, I did a deal. We needed some music for an ad, and I did a deal, and I got sued by the Beatles, which at most companies is not a good career-enhancing move. Fortunately for me, Nike is not most companies, but they decided...
And you're married. That's a great pickup line if you weren't. I got sued by the Beatles.
I got sued by the Beatles. It would be a great...
I would use that. I might use that tonight, and I am married. I knew a guy that was sued by the Beatles. Let's go back to my place.
Funny.
That's awesome.
So they figured I would get into less trouble outside of legal, so I set up a department, and for the next 28 years, whenever Nike wanted to do an ad, they would run it by me in my department that I started, and we would tell them, this is what you need to do that ad. So it's either, you want to have Jordan in his NBA uniform, we would have to go to the NBA, show them what we wanted to do. They would tell us they like it, they didn't like it. If they didn't like it, we couldn't do it in uniform. The best example is the Charles Barkley role model ad, which David Stern absolutely hated. He said it's the wrong message, and we had to tell him. Charles came to us. There was some gang shootings in Phoenix. He says, I want to make a statement.
Yeah.
So he came to us, this is what I want to do, this is what I want to say, and basically what he was saying is, I can be a hero to you, but I can't be a role model. Your kid doesn't know me. They need a parent or an aunt or an uncle to be a role model. Stern he would give me shit for the next 15 or 20 years about that. So when he retired, I had the Nike guys, we made up a t-shirt. And on top we had Charles, and on the bottom we had David's face. And under Charles we put not a role model, and under David's we put role model, right? Jeez, so my wife and I visited David after we retired in New York, and he's got the shirt hanging on a little hanger in his office. So he finally came around to our point of view.
Yeah, and I think that, there's in marketing, it's always about what message are we trying to send, and then you're conflicting a little bit because Nike's message might be different than the NBA's and might be different than the players.
Absolutely. The NBA was trying to appeal to everybody from 8 to 80.
Yeah.
Our sweet spot was, 14 to 18-year-old guys and then girls, okay?
High school athletes.
High school athletes. So we wanted an edge to what we were doing. I think the league thought some of the stuff they couldn't do, but they were fine with us doing it. They got what we were trying to do, but there were just some things that we can't let you do that.
So we have to ask you about Michael Jordan. Being involved and around him, Dave, Michael Jordan is amazing.
Let's start with the courting process, because I know that that's a great story. Can you tell us how he ended up in Beaverton, Oregon, and you guys pitching Nike to him?
Well, you're going to have to ask Phil Knight that one, because if you've checked the stories in USA Today, there's different origin stories. So you would have Phil's story, you'd probably have David Falk's story, and you might have another story from Sonny Vaccaro. So that's one I will leave.
What's Mark's story?
Mark's story.
And just before you tell your story, the major players back then, right, to be clear, were Converse, Adidas, and probably Reebok, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Michael had worn Converse at North Carolina.
Really? Okay.
And then when he came out,
the pro leather.
Yeah, when he came out for the pros, there was. I think he may have been inclined to go to Adidas, but he came out and people put on.
Was that because North Carolina was a Converse school, or did that not exist at that point?
No, it existed. Okay, the school was a Converse school. He came out, and our marketing guys, were second to none. And they got basketball, and they got what Michael. They saw very early what Michael could be. He could be this transcendent athlete, appealing to everybody. So he took the plunge, and that was actually the first thing I did in Nike legal department was Michael's first contract with Nike. Cool. And then I was just on campus the other day in one of the new buildings, this phenomenally beautiful building. So they name all the buildings after athletes. So this building was the Seb Coe, Lord Sebastian Coe. That was the second thing that I did at Nike was Seb Coe's contract.
So we had talked a little bit beforehand, and there's a zillion things that that I want to ask, but I was joking the other day about how somewhere in the world there's a country with clothing with all misrepresentation of sports results. Like the Buffalo Bills 4 times in a row winning the Super Bowl or whatever else, and then you gave me a little look about a good story with championship hats.
Yeah, well,
right?
But to your first point, what would athletic apparel sponsors would do in order to get, if the Eagles win, you got to make Eagles hats and Patriots hats.
Right.
When the Patriots lose the Super Bowl, they ship the hats to third world countries, and that's why you see a lot of kids walking around with, Patriots, whatever the year was, Super Bowl champs.
Right. Yep.
No, but my story, and I hope I'm accurate on this. I'm pretty sure I am. 1989, Michigan is playing Seton Hall in the finals, okay? Nike has a great relationship with PJ Carlissimo. So it was the second or third year of the Nike Just Do It campaign, and as a lawyer, I would have to tell people, you can't say just did it, you can't do just kick it, just throw it. Right. We're trying to protect the trademark, okay? But I came up with this idea, wouldn't it be cool if we made up hats for the Seton Hall kids, just did it, number 1. Okay, I'm in the legal department, no budget, so I had somebody go out, and they look like painter's caps, like, if you're painting and you don't want the paint to drip off the ceiling.
The old Celtics, remember those, Dave? Like at the Garden, the old paint.
Oh, yeah.
I had a few of those.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
So we made up 25 Just Did It #1 hats. We give them to the Seton Hall student manager. In that game, Ramil Robinson hits 2 free throws in the overtime. It puts
From Cambridge, Massachusetts, Ramil
Range Tech, yeah.
Yep.
Puts them up by, I think, 3. Seton Hall comes down, kid tosses up a 3-pointer, hits the rim and goes out. The Seton Hall manager looks down, he's got a box of hats that he's got no use for.
Right.
He walks down the other end, he hands them to the Michigan student manager.
Yeah.
He gives them to the kids on Michigan. So if you look at the end of the game, you're going to see all of these kids is surrounding Billy Packer, Steve Fisher, because they all got Just Did It #1 hats on.
Yeah, right.
Okay?
Wow.
So the next year, I'm on to something good here.
Yeah.
Next year is UNLV, Tarkanian. Just Did It #1.
Yeah.
You look at the end of the game, talk surrounded by kids. Just Did It #1. Next year, UNLV's 34-0. They're undefeated. They had a 43-game winning streak. So I go, okay, I'm going to branch out. So I did Just Did It #1 again. Make the hats up. Get into the UNLV student manager. UNLV loses to Duke in the semifinals. So I go, you know what? I'm out of the hat business. So I went back and I've looked at every year from 1980 to 1989 NCAA champions. Nobody wore hats.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think you guys are sitting here with the guy who invented the victory hat, because they wouldn't have done it in college football, because in those days they didn't have a playoff, so you didn't know until the polls came out. Baseball didn't do it, so that's my legacy.
I believe that Mark Thomashow invented the victory hat more than I believe Bobby Valentine saying that he invented the wrap. The sandwich wrap.
That is
I
true.
believe. Oh yeah,
Or
he
Al
said
Gore
that.
inventing
That's true
the internet.
story. He said that.
Yeah, right.
Much better source than either of those guys.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so we just talked a little bit about Just Do It or Just Did It. I want to ask you a little bit about Bonos, because growing up, we talk about what we had in our bedrooms. I had that Bonos poster. I think everybody had a Bonos poster at one
Bo
point.
Jackson, amazing athlete, probably,
Sport athlete.
incredible.
And I think I remember you telling me one time that was your favorite ad campaign or marketing campaign that you worked on.
So we get, the ad guys, Wyden and Kennedy, they were sitting around one night and they were thinking, what can we do with Bo? And they started going, Bo Derek, Bo Schembechler. They started just throwing out different Bo,
Yeah.
Bo Bridges, and they go,
Bo Diddley.
Bo Diddley. They said, Bo Diddley. Let's do something with Bo and Bo Diddley. And so I negotiated the deal with Bo Diddley. And the ad campaign was basically, here's all the things, but Bo knows baseball, Bo knows football, Bo knows basketball. The best part of it is, and Gretzky skates up and he just shakes his head, no. Right? so you see Bo, elbowing somebody into the plexiglass around a hockey ring. So we're
Bo
gonna
probably could have done well on skates. I'm sure if he learned it.
anything he wanted,
Right.
he could have done.
Yeah.
So we're gonna debut the ad at the All-Star game.
Yep.
So we made up these hand pennants. It says Bo knows baseball, Bo knows football. We put them in the stadium. Then it was in Anaheim that year. So in the second deck, we had signs. This is when you could do shit like this without people coming down on you. So we had signs: Bo knows baseball, Bo knows football. We hired a plane. 1989? Was it
89.
Yeah.
1989.
You could have planes.
1989.
flybys. Yeah, your planes doing. Brett Muntzberger was doing the game on radio. Oh, there's a plane going by with a Just Do It. That one I remember to do Just Do It rather than Just Did It.
Yeah.
So, Bo comes up, first at bat, right? Hits a home run. Okay, just crushes it. Cut to the crowd, they're waving the hand pennants. Cut to the ad with Bo Diddley. So when they did the Bo Knows Bo documentary, the guys came out and they wanted to interview me. And I gave them a great talk about Bo had a sense of the historic. So he knew that after he batted, right, Nike was going right to the ad. Okay? And if he struck out, kills the whole ad campaign.
Right,
All people, he may know football, but he can't hit a curveball. So, so I went on and on, 10, 15-minute interview about this, right?
Yeah.
Documentary comes out, Mintz calls me, hey, I just saw you on the Bo Knows, and I look, and all they have is Yeah, nobody knew the ad campaign was going to be that big.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you guys are giving me a chance
Yeah.
to redemption
Yeah,
to talk my story.
I mean, that was. And I want to talk about this too because the Nike campaigns and stuff were part of pop culture.
Absolutely.
The Bono
100%.
stuff was stuff that you said in schools, and I mean, like everyone, it was part of the vernacular.
Remember,
and how
instant
people
karma's
talk.
gonna get you.
Right.
Gonna
And
hit
then
you right in the face.
Spike Lee, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and again, so the campaigns were almost Hollywood. They were Hollywood productions with Hollywood directors and stars. And actually, was Spike Lee as big as he is?
No, and Spike, I went about 4 years ago. Spike was inducted to the Advertising Hall of Fame, and in his speech, he says, "Look, I was content, using my credit card to film, my movies, and these two guys came to me, Bill Davenport and Jim Risloff from Wieden and Kennedy, and said, would I like to have my Mars character be in an ad with Michael Jordan?" Okay, and it changed my career.
Yep.
And he said, I wanted to thank Michael. Michael was working with Joe Pitka, Ridley Scott, all the biggest ad directors in the world.
Right.
And he took a chance on this young guy from Brooklyn,
Right.
young African-American guy. And,
Small guy.
Small guy.
Yeah, right.
I can't say that because he's still a little bit taller than me.
Okay,
But his, what he did, it just went through the roof. So
Yeah.
it was phenomenal.
And you still connect with Spike Lee?
I still connect with Spike. Yeah.
Wow.
25 years later.
You guys are great friends, actually, aren't you?
Yeah, no, we're good friends. I think I've done a couple things over the years. I think that have endeared me to Spike. So when Malcolm X didn't get nominated for anything, I went down to a local trophy shop and I said, I need 2 Oscars. I need Best Picture Malcolm X, Best Director Malcolm X.
Yeah.
Had them made up. Go to New York. I give them to Spike. I find out Spike owned a store at that point on Melrose, right, called Spike's Joint, and he had them on the mantle at the store. And I said, Spike, I'm pretty sure that somebody from the Academy could walk in, and then both of us are going to be in trouble because you got 2 fake Oscars. So could you put that, at home? So,
I have best dad. I think I can get that one on Hollywood Boulevard. My kids got it for me. I mean, that's again another person, Spike Lee, who influential in so many ways. All sort of the springboard from the Nike stuff. And here's another part of the lore of all this stuff. And was it one of the legends? Sure, yeah.
One more Spike story because I have a book that I'm hoping to do. Okay, and one of the chapters is my seats were determined by who I took to the game. So the NFL and the NBA, they took care of me. But if I took James Carville to the baseball All-Star game, I got a better seat than if I took, took David Metz. Okay, somehow.
Not anymore. He's got this famous podcast now. But whatever.
So I took Spike to a U.S. Open match.
Yeah.
And we sat next to David Kennan was the president of CBS, was telecasting the match. So we're sitting at the end, and we got these little monitors in front of us. McEnroe's announcing me. He looks over and he goes, "There's Spike Lee." And the camera pans on me and Spike, and he goes, "I bet you Spike Lee didn't pay for those tickets." And Spike goes, no.
That's funny.
That is amazing. Now, that kind of leads me a little bit to the question of the perks involved in this business, right? So people who are listening, and we've had this running theme of it being interesting sports jobs and careers where, I didn't even know that job existed kind of thing, and boy, I would love to be in a sports environment. What were some of the biggest perks or memories that you have from it that you just went, boy, this is a great job, or this is where I like to be, and
Yeah. Well, when I was in the legal department, I felt I had the best legal job in the world. I'm doing, all of the college endorsement agreements with the coaches. I got to meet all of the, college football coaches, college basketball coaches, through negotiating to get their deals done. I think the perks of the job are the relationships that you build up. I mean, I've dealt with people at the NBA for 30 years. I've dealt with people at record labels or music publishers or CAA or William Morris or ICM, and those kinds of relationships over the course of 3 decades were really good. I mean, you guys just interviewed the Iceman, so I got to tell you one Iceman story, which was this was an absolute classic. We're filming an ad with Kevin Durant in Oklahoma City, and we got Jay Billis in it, we got George in it. So we go out to eat, and it's me and the Nike guys and Gervin and Billis. We walk out, and there are these 2 young guys there just back from their deployment, wherever they were, right? And at that moment, Durant pulls up in front of me, went to Mickey Mantle's in Oklahoma City. So these kids get incredibly excited. So they want a picture with Durant.
Yeah.
So they're standing there, Durant, and the kid hands his cell phone to George, right? He doesn't know who George is.
Right, yeah.
And he says, sir, would you take our picture? So I'm sitting in the car, and I'm going, this can't end well, right? So I'm watching George, he's taking it, and he hands the picture back, and Billis photobombs it, right, the picture. Yeah. So George comes back in the car, George, how'd you come out? He says, I have no idea how to use that cell phone. It's not the kind I have. So these kids, I think, they're shit out of luck. Billis posts the picture that another Nike guy was taking as George was trying to take the picture. See George from the back, Durant, these 2 servicemen, and Jay Billis photobombing.
Oh my gosh!
So George is a multi-talented. He's a golfer. He's got a school that he started. They put a school in Phoenix, but if you need a picture, you don't hand the phone to George.
Well, I don't want to interrupt because I don't want to scare you, but Paul McCartney just walked in. Are you going to get into a fight if you see him? And, I mean, is the Beatles rift resolved or what?
What's funny is
I got your back. I know I can take. I don't know about Ringo, but I know I can take Paul.
Paul was pissed at the time. I mean, really pissed at the time but Paul. They sold the rights to the publishing of their songs to Michael Jackson. Eventually went to Michael Jackson.
Right, yep.
Okay, but the master recordings were left with what was it? Capitol Records.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Capitol had the right to do what they wanted to do, but McCartney, there was always lawsuits going back and forth between Capitol and Apple Records, right? And I tried to convince people for decades that I didn't just stumble into the lawsuit. I knew what was going to happen when they had sued by the Beatles, getting all this great publicity. But actually, I had no idea that they were suing each other for the 15 years previous to the time we licensed the music.
I mean, Nike must have come out on the top end of the profits on that one, right?
It was great. And it was, and I think Phil would say that, Knight would say this, it was like a seminal moment in Nike advertising because he saw the power of advertising. So I was at some event, and McCartney was like 3 rows over, and I saw, he had Nike swooshes on, and I was going to send a business card. Hey, he's still mad, but I didn't have the nerve to
Actually, now that I think about it, you just brought up Ringo Starr. You actually kind of look a little bit like Ringo Starr. Have you ever got that?
Sure.
He's got a little Ringo Starr look to him. You've never got that before?
It, but,
No, I'll tell you.
We'll have to look at photos later. I'm telling you, I think you got a little bit of a Ringo.
Yeah, I can fix that. Well, that's good enough.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, but Steven Spielberg.
Oh yeah, Spielberg. Yep, I see that. Yep.
I was at an NBA event. Billy Cunningham and his wife, right, was sitting in a row in front of me, and she turned out, "Are you?" Am I what? You Steven Spielberg? I said, "Billy, would you tell your wife that I am not Steven Spielberg?" So I've gotten Spielberg. So I'm wondering, like, whether he gets a lot of. You Mark Thomashow, but
he might. You never know.
I'll fix that.
He might get that.
I get Brad Pitt. And I'm tired of it because, I know I'm more like Tom Brady.
About 100 pounds ago, I used to get Ben Affleck all the time. And then as I gained a little bit more weight and I had spikier hair and I lived down in the New York metropolitan area, I actually got Roger Clemens a lot.
I could see.
Yeah, I got Roger Clemens.
So one of the Legends brunches, which, by the way, is one of the most entertaining things.
Yeah.
All-Star Weekend.
We're sitting at the table, and Dave, I'm talking to, at the time, I didn't know Sonny V, and I didn't know who he was. It wasn't, to the mainstream America, probably not one of the most recognizable faces, but in sports, a legend, right?
In mainstream, with him, people may not know what he did in the past, but he's the one who got Ed O'Bannon to sue the NCAA, and he hooked him up with his attorneys. So Sonny,
for the video game, using his likeness in a video
Let's
game.
back up a little bit, and tell people who Sonny B is, because he is, and maybe you just say Sonny B, how he got connected with Nike and your relationship with him.
Yeah, Sonny came up with the idea of paying college coaches to have their kids wear the shoes.
Sure.
Yeah, so that Nike, he brought all of the early Nike coaches to them. Okay, so Sonny, he did that at Nike. So I knew him then when he was doing it for Nike. He left Nike, I think he hit the trifecta. I think he did Adidas and probably Reebok. So he's probably he ran a basketball tournament in Pittsburgh called the Dapper Dan, which was like, now you have lots of these all-star tournaments. That was it.
Yeah.
That was the big, kids from New York would play kids from Baltimore and stuff. So Sonny was this incredibly well-connected guy in the world of college basketball. Well, what's interesting is Sonny went on I don't know how to say it. He had a point where it just felt these kids are being taken advantage of. These schools are making millions and millions, hundreds of millions of dollars off of these kids, and these kids barely get, the scholarship covers education. Kid doesn't have enough money to take his girlfriend out for a pizza on Friday night. So Sonny went looking for somebody who'd be willing to challenge the NCAA, and what happened was Sonny knew O'Bannon. O'Bannon was visiting a friend's house, and the friend's teenager said, "Hey, I'm playing this video game, and they got you in it." What do you mean got me in? Well, they got UCLA, and it's a 6'11", bald black guy, and he's left-handed, and he's got all of your moves. So O'Bannon looks at it. He says, that's bullshit. I'm not getting anything from this. So O'Bannon, Sonny hooked O'Bannon up with his attorney, Hausfeld. I forgot his first name.
He gave him a voice.
Yeah, and Sonny's going,
And Ed was like selling cars at the time, right? He was like a car
in
salesman.
Vegas. Yeah. And Sonny's going to Harvard Business School, Harvard Law School, Yale, talking to these kids about this is just wrong. In America, kid, what the NCAA is doing. And I think Russell has joined the lawsuit, and Oscar Robertson. So Sonny is going to change. Well, they already did. Bannon won the lawsuit, so that the NCAA started giving kids $5,000 stipends or something like that. So Sonny's you should get Sonny for a podcast.
Yeah, that's another podcast.
Yeah, I would love it.
He'll be here all weekend.
That would be if you make an introduction.
While we're on the topic of college basketball, while we're on the topic, can you just real quick kind of tell the audience the influence that college basketball in specifically teams like Duke, right? Christian Laettner, Bobby Hurley, Grant Hill, the Fab Five, Michigan, right? The role, because growing up, those were the teams that I could not miss a game. UNLV, right? The Running Rebels. Like, I could not miss a game growing up. And I don't know.
Even in an area that was big into college basketball.
Sure.
New England.
Talk a little bit about the influence that those guys had on the Nike brand,
Oh, it was amazing. And the Fab Five wearing, black socks, the baggy shorts and stuff, and so just the association with Nike, and not just the sale of Michigan apparel, which was big, or shoes in gold and blue, but just you're part of the fabric of sports. So people are watching, these great athletes go up and down the court wearing your product. And again, most years out of the top 25 NCAA basketball teams, 20 of them would be Nike schools, and so you get to the Final Four where they all Nike. Now Jordan has more and more schools wearing Michael Jordan.
I feel like that was the golden age, though, in that early 90s, because you had Duke, you had UNLV, right? Larry Johnson would go on to, would go on to obviously his own NBA career, great NBA career, but Duke, UNLV, and Michigan. Because when I think of the 90s college basketball, I think of those, they were trendsetters in footwear and apparel, trendsetters.
But,
and they were wearing the Nike swoosh.
But it's they still do. I mean, you look at the uniforms that Gonzaga wears now. If you look at the back, the way the fabrication and what they can put in it, the messaging that they can put in the uniforms. Now, I think what they're doing for the All-Star game, I think this is one of the great, instead of the garish uniforms that they've worn, and I'm biased towards Nike.
Yeah.
That they've...
As you should be.
As I should be for the past
31 years.
Just the black and white uniforms, I think, is phenomenal. Just simplicity.
Classic.
Skins versus shorts.
Sure, classic. Yeah.
Well, Mark, it's been amazing to have you, and I am going to insist that we have you back on again. There's so many areas, I think, that your expertise will be able to entertain our audience in, because the level of knowledge when it comes to shoes and sports and branding and all that, starts and ends at the storefronts and the malls for a lot of people and what they see on TV. But the behind-the-scenes stuff that you've been involved with, I mean, obviously this half hour or whatever we spent on this couldn't even tackle. You have 1,000 more
It's the
stories.
tip of the iceberg. Tip of the iceberg.
I appreciate it, guys. I was very fortunate. I had a great career working for a great company, and I wouldn't trade anything. It was fun. Thank you for taking the time to talk to me, and I'll definitely come back.
You're going to be a regular on the show. We're going to have.
We're just getting started.
We're just getting started with it. Yeah. Mark Thomashow, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Wow, what an interesting character, Dave. Mark Thomashow. I mean, everything
Nike
that you
legend.
said. Nike legend. Can you believe his first contract he ever negotiated was with Michael Jordan? First contract he said was Michael Jordan. Is that amazing?
Is that a big deal? Michael Jordan, was he a big figure in sports? I don't know.
Well, history will prove it out, I think, down the line. I mean, the jury's still out on that one, but apparently I would say in the, you would put Jordan in the top 250 players in NBA history.
Let's put it this way. You're big time when the footnote in your Wikipedia is, oh, by the way, I got sued by the Beatles.
And that is amazing, too.
That's the footnote.
The fact that, and I was half joking that Paul McCartney was walking in the room and a fight almost broke out. Like, can you imagine, being on a date and being like, oh, there's McCartney. This is going to be embarrassing because we're going to throw down. And
we all agreed too by the end of the interview that
Yeah.
he did look like an older version of
Ringo Starr. You said that. I don't agree.
Yeah, come on.
I don't agree.
Ringo Starr and Steven Spielberg.
He said Steven Spielberg.
Yeah.
I don't see it, But we're gonna go to In-N-Out Burger with him, and we're friends now.
gosh.
I'm am I a godson? Am I a Mintzy Princey?
The jury's out on that one. We'll see.
All right. Well, this was a great conversation. I think we're going to put it up on iTunes. You just got to give it your signature permission. Should we put it up there or what?
Let's send it.